As a preliminary jerk ran down the heavy train, the boy once more looked at his watch and made up his mind. If the train was on time, and he felt sure that it was, this was Upper Chain, the junction where he was to change for the final stage of his journey. He would stay. The dark, heavy sleepers slowly crept past as the train gathered way, till suddenly he found himself staring for a moment at the red and green taillights. They grew dim and blinked out in the enveloping fog. He shivered a bit, for the first time realizing how cold it was at this altitude before daybreak. And, to be quite honest, there was just a little feeling of loneliness as he made out the dim black wall of evergreens on one side and the long string of empty freight cars shutting him in on the other. The whistle of the laboring locomotive shrieked out of the darkness ahead, reverberating with an eerie hollowness from mountain to mountain. Involuntarily he shivered again. Then, with a boyish laugh at his momentary loss of nerve, he shouldered his duffel bag and picked up his fishing rod. "Must be a depot here somewhere, and it's up to me to find it," he said aloud. "Wonder what I tipped that stupid porter for, anyway. Dad would say I'm easy. Guess I am, all right. Who says this is July?" Trudging along the ties, he soon came to the end of the string of empties, and, a little way to his right, made out the dim outlines of a building. This proved to be the depot. A moment later he was in the bare, stuffy little waiting room, in the middle of which a big stove was radiating a welcome warmth. On a bench at one side sat two roughly dressed men, who glanced up as the boy entered. One was in the prime of vigorous manhood. Broad of shoulder, large of frame, he was spare with the leanness of the professional woodsman, who lives up to the rule that takes nothing useless on the trail, and therefore cannot afford to carry superfluous flesh. The gray flannel shirt, falling open at the neck, exposed a throat which, like his face, was roughened and bronzed by the weather. The boy caught the quick glance of the keen blue eyes which, for all their kindly twinkle, bored straight through him. Instinctively he felt that here was one of the very men his imagination had so often pictured, a man skilled in woodcraft, accustomed to meeting danger, clear-headed, resourceful. In fact, just such a man as was Deerslayer, whose rifle had so often roused the echoes in these very woods. The man beside him was short, thick-set, black-haired, and mare-browed. His skin was swarthy, with just a tinge of color to hint at Indian ancestry among his French forebears. He wore the large check mackinaw of the French-Canadian lumberman. Against the bench beside him rested a double-bladed axe. A pair of beady black eyes burned their way into the boy's consciousness. They were not good eyes. They seemed to carry a hint of hate and evil, an unspoken threat. The man, taking in the new khaki suit of the boy and the unsoiled case of the fishing rod, grunted contemptuously and spat a mouthful of tobacco juice into the box of sawdust beside the stove. The boy flushed and turned to meet the kindly, luminous eyes of the other man. "If you please, is this Upper Chain?" he inquired. "Sure, son," was the prompt response. "Reckon we must have come up on the same train, only I was up forward. Guess you're bound for Woodcraft Camp. So am I, so let's shake. My name's Jim Everly, Big Jim they call me, and I'm going in to guide for Dr. Merriam the rest of the summer and try to teach you youngsters a few of the first principles. What might your name be, and where be you from?" "Walter Upton, but the boys mostly call me Walt. My home is in New York," replied the boy. "Never hit the trail of the big woods afore, did you?" inquired the big guide, rising to stretch. "No," said Walter, and then added eagerly, "but I've read lots and lots of books about them, and I guess I could most find my way along a trail, even if I am a city tenderfoot. I've paddled a canoe some, and I know all about the habits of wild animals and how to build a fire, and—" "Son," interrupted Big Jim, "stop right there. Forget it. All this rot you've been a-reading. Woodcraft never yet was learned out of books, and it never will be. I reckon you and me are going to hitch up together fine, and when you go back to your daddy this fall, you'll be able to take him out of the tall trim."